We found a hotel and rested the next day for Assisi.
Assisi was 17 miles away, but we anticipated a long hill before we entered the town that honors the saint. He lived for 45 years from 1181 to 1226. He founded the Franciscan Order of Brothers and Priests, known for their vow of poverty and simple lifestyle. He is also the patron saint of animals and the environment. The impressive entrance to Assisi welcomes the millions of tourists who come there to pay tribute to this humble saint who has captivated people from around the world, some with deep faith and some with no faith at all.
San Crispino was another example of our high-end, low-end approach to lodging. San Crispino was definitely high-end. We figured we could find a low-end place after being there for one day. Well, after all, it was a long ride up a rather steep hill. It was close to the church that held the tomb of St. Clare. She was a helpmate to St. Francis, who assisted him in renewing religious life in the church.
The end of our first day in Assisi. We so enjoyed our special guide in Siena that we chose one again in Assisi.
Assisi can create contradictions in a person's mind. Francis was a model and advocate of poverty, but the tributes to him, and especially the basilica, do not reflect his austerity. The basilica is most impressive, the lower part being built in 1228, and the upper part the result of gradual reconstruction even until recently. Francis popularized the Tau cross design, and his favorite word was pax, or peace. In 1999, following an earthquake, several large pieces of plaster fell from the ceiling, injuring a Franciscan brother and worker. On Sunday, October 3rd, I participated at the Sunday Mass, learning that the next day Assisi would celebrate the 200th anniversary of Francis's death. We had planned to leave Monday, but decided to stay for the celebration. The tomb of St. Francis. I wonder what Francis would think of all the expense that his followers put into this glorious basilica. If you wanted a rosary or a Tau cross, you had at least 1 million in all styles and materials to choose from. We needed to eat all we could to negotiate the many steps that fill the town. I saw this fellow arrive on his bike, clad in tattered jeans and sporting a tattoo. He put on his garb and was wonderfully talented as a mannequin. When Pat stared at him for about 10 seconds, he finally tinkled his bell and opened his hand for a tip. Each contrada or region in the area sent their dancers in distinctive garments to provide festive performances to celebrate the bicentennial. Rising over Assisi is an ancient fortress that also served as a prison. Walking to the top of the hill provided us a great panorama of the town below. The next morning we arose early, thinking we could get a seat in the basilica for the celebration. How naive. It was roped off for the hundreds of special dignitaries, mostly clergy, and one representative from each of the contradas carrying their region's colorful banner. The clergy and other invited dignitaries were led through the streets on their way to the basilica. People from one of the contradas stretched their necks to view all the pageantry. We left as soon as the parade passed us.
Now our main desire was to get back to Florence. There were 3 more towns to visit, but as strong as our legs were, we felt Denver calling us home. Little did we know we were in for a surprise. As we departed from Assisi, we stopped to see the Portiuncula, France's own church, which is now encased in a larger church about a mile from Assisi.
The first town we stopped in was Cortona. Though we were apprehensive about route finding and the terrain, the 45-mile ride was easy and most pleasant, although Cortona was, again, a hilltop town. But by this time our muscles were like steel. The postcard shows the compact and wall-surrounded layout of Cortona. And the smoky terrain around Cortona.
And then on our way to Arezzo, another 19 miles along the flat valley region that follows the Arno River to Florence. Arezzo has such great architecture and famous history, it was sad that we didn't spend more time. We found our hotel for the night and prepared for the next day, the day of the great surprise.
And we were on our way to Reggio. It had been highly recommended by my London friends as being close to Florence, yet high on the foothills overlooking the Arno Valley. It was the one destination I had a hard time reserving lodging. After much research on the web, I finally pinned down Villa I Bonzi, which had an odd website that made me wonder even though I booked a room and dinner for one night. I explained to Pat that getting to it would require a 5-mile climb, but I thought we could do it. It was a tough climb, but worse, the GPS did not identify the little turns that led to the villa. After asking 2 locals for directions, we found it and were in for our big surprise. I parked my bike on the grass and knocked on the front door. I knocked again, but no answer. Meanwhile, Pat had gone to one side of the building and knocked also. A lady answered the door and let us in. I said, "We are Dick and Pat Ling, and we have reservations for tonight." "Oh," she said, "we thought you were coming last night. We brought in our staff and fixed dinner for you, but since you didn't show up and no one else was here, everyone went home except myself." I quickly concluded that the mistake was mine, not theirs, and figured we would be soaked for both the lodging and the dinner. But not so. She called the owner in Florence, who said she would not require us to pay for my mistake.
So we asked where we could eat dinner, since it was around 4 p.m. "You'll have to bike up another hill, 1 mile, to the center of Reggio," she said. We said, "No way! We're tired and exhausted. How can we get back down to the train in the valley?" "Go out the door and head downhill," she said.
The road outside the villa was slightly downhill, so I said to Pat, "Well, let's go." "No," Pat said, "first we have to bike a little uphill and then go downhill." I was both tired and cranky, and I said, "I'm the leader. This is downhill right here. Let's go." We began downhill on asphalt, which quickly became gravel, and then dirt, leading us dead end into a farmyard where 2 farmers who could not speak English rested by their tractor. With hand signs, they indicated we would have to bike back to the villa to go downhill. With Pat breathing silent recriminations down my neck, we got on our bikes, rode up to the villa, then found the road downhill, and plummeted 5 miles back to the valley we had just left hours before. We crossed the train track leading to Florence and biked over to a cluster of a few homes and shops, hoping to find a hotel for the night. In my somewhat hesitant Italian, I said to the shop owner, "Dove un albergo? Where is a hotel?" He said there was no albergo. We were heartbroken, but fortunately, Pat had picked up a train schedule in Arezzo, and we knew a train would arrive in about a half an hour.
We put our bikes on the train, sat down, and breathed a sigh of relief, hoping we could get a room at Hotel Aprile since we were 1 day before our reservation. Not only did it have a room, it was our old room. It felt like coming home.